I'm Megan Rubeck. I'm with Allied Insurance Agency. We have 2 locations, one in Brazil, Indiana, and one in Terre Haute, Indiana. We specialize in commercial insurance, life insurance. We like to call ourselves your risk advisors. That's how we base our business off of. We like to look at ourselves as risk advisors for our commercial businesses. And we also write anything from homes, autos, builders policies, amongst other things, but commercial policies and life insurance is really where we specialize.
Hi, everyone. Today we have Megan Rubeck with Allied Insurance located in Brazil and Terre Haute, Indiana. And today's episode is brought to you by Distinct. Welcome to the Small Business Squad, where we help small business owners achieve more with less hassle. At Distinct, we know how overwhelming it can be to juggle everything. That's why we offer unlimited website support, professional videography and photography, as well as back office assistance through our dedicated team of remote experts. We're here to give you back time to focus on what matters most, growing your business. Let us handle the details so you can handle success. So thanks for joining us. Dave, I'd love if you could introduce Megan based on your experience working together.
I certainly can. I actually work with the Indiana Small Business Development Center as a business advisor, and I met Megan a year or two ago. She was just looking for some basic feedback and advice regarding managing the business, and they were in the throes of an acquisition process, which is always very difficult for a small business owner. And when I went out there and engaged with Megan and Scott and everyone else at the business, I was impressed because there was a whole lot of, we want to do things right, we want to do things properly, and we want our business to be a business that employees would love to come work for, but also that our clients see as the best in the area. And so it was very impressive. And Megan, welcome. Happy to have you here. If you'd like, yeah, you bet. If you'd like, Vince, I'd like to throw out the first question, if that's okay.
Yeah, please do.
So, a nice journey to this point, Megan, with much more to go, I'm sure. When someone takes over a business, especially a small business, I always like to ask for what's the number one lesson learned that if you would have known before purchasing the business, whether it was through the transition, what you knew or didn't know about the customer base, something that you look back and you said, I probably could have researched that. That would have saved me some headaches. Maybe it wouldn't have had you not do the deal, but just, something that if you do it again tomorrow and you go buy a different business, what's the one thing that people need to make sure they look out for?
That is kind of a loaded question. I think that if I had to do it all over again, I would ask way more questions. I would brainstorm a list of those questions and have ready to go for that acquisition or just opening a business in general. Make sure you're talking with other business owners. Get in touch with somebody like you, Dave, and the ISBC. That's been huge. I wish I would have done that earlier and researched a little more and asked a lot more questions early on.
That's fair. I feel like you never know until you go through that process, right? Like you don't know what questions even to ask. Was there anything an action that you took that you're really happy that you took, right? Like you were learning a lot, but was there anything that came intuitively that was really beneficial?
I think maybe not so much beneficial for me, personally, but for our business as a whole. I think my background in the nursing field, where everything has to be documented, everything has to be done right. You have to be consistent. You have to abide by the rules and the policies set forth. I think I was able to bring that to our business. Health insurance, life insurance, commercial insurance. It is a different beast, but really at the end of the day, you still have customers. You're still protecting their most important assets, and you have to make sure that you do everything by the book and the appropriate way. You can't rush things. You can't do 50% of the work. You have to do it 110% all the time. And that is very closely related to nursing. And I think my husband thinks I'm crazy when I say that, but I do see a lot of similarities in that role and this role.
Are you one of those people that loves documentation?
Yes.
Sounds like you might.
Yes.
I wish I could be that way. I love having documentation and I love the idea of creating documentation. But when I get down into the weeds of trying to do it, it's not a strength of mine.
Well, and I think too, we have put policies and procedures in place and really stuck with those, pushed those hard in the last 9 months to a year. And I think once you see the value in it, then you appreciate it more. It's just getting everyone on board to see the value in and why we do that. I don't want our customers, whether they call in the Brazil office, call in the Terre Haute location, or call one of us on our cell phones while we're driving down the road. I don't want the customer to ever feel that we aren't all a team and we don't all know what's going on. We have different people in our offices that do different things, whether that's, our claims manager, he deals with the claims, or our change agent who, if you call in and want to make a policy change, they will handle the changes. So we all have a hand in multiple accounts every day. And so we have to work as a team, and we have to make sure that documentation is there so your customer feels like they're, fully taken care of.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah, nobody wants to have the situation of, well, I can't help you. We got to wait till John comes in tomorrow and we'll get back to you, right? You mentioned on the outset, you are the client's risk advisor. You're the risk manager for them. I'm going to go back to prior to buying the business and prior to getting into insurance. What did your husband, Scott, do prior to this business?
So he has always been in a sales role. Mainly, it's more been an agriculture realm and not insurance, but it's been a sales role.
Yeah. So he's a natural for that side of it. Why did you guys decide insurance? Was this a passion of yours? Did you just see a great business opportunity? Or?
Well, actually, we joke about this because I never hear people say, I want to grow up and be an insurance agent. But his business was based out of Nebraska. We're in Indiana. That was a pretty far stretch. And he would have retirement sales for these farmers, these big farmers. And once they retired and all their equipment was sold, they were no longer a customer. They were no longer a part of his, business. And he made some really good relationships with those customers. And he kind of said, that's the part of the job I hate, is because now they're no longer a customer and I don't have a relationship really anymore with them. And so in his mind, he didn't want to travel anymore, and he thought, what is something that I could do to kind of stay in the ag industry a little bit and have customers that are lifelong customers. He's a relationship person. He loves to keep relationships. We'll be in an airport and he'll make a new friend in 5 minutes. And so he is definitely a relationship person. And so the church that we go to, one of the members that is also a farmer had Allied Insurance actually, and was looking to retire. And I always say that it was, an act of God, because Dale and Scott talked on the right day at church. And Dale had mentioned retiring and Scott had mentioned going into the insurance business, and it was just, history was made on that day. So I think it was just kind of a natural fit. Like I said, Dale, the previous owner, was also a farmer. And so he had a lot of ag customers already on the books. And so it just seemed like a natural progression in his career. So
what about that progression in your career? So that was his leap. That was his reasoning to do it. You did it just because you love him.
Yes. I actually, when he was serious about, buying Allied, I was like, why in the world would you want to sell insurance? Just to understand. I'm used to high adrenaline situations, fast-paced situations, that kind of thing. And so I just couldn't understand it. And when Dale finally wanted to retire, Dale was managing the office side of things. And me and Scott had a lot of conversations about, who do you bring on to trust with the books and trust that everything's going to get done. And at the same time, COVID had just happened, and we have 3 small children, and the nursing world was just a different place, and it just kind of fit at the right time for me to make that transition to come and work alongside of him and run the office and make this our family business.
I'm really curious. You asked him, why would you want to be in insurance? Now that you're in it, right, and you've been in it, what are you loving about it?
It feels like when you go to school, everybody wants to be a teacher, a police officer, a nurse, all of those big careers that you always hear about. And insurance is not one of those that you hear about. So as I worked with Dave and I've researched the insurance industry a lot more, there's actually college programs that have insurance courses, and it makes so much sense for people, if whether they're in a business degree or whatever. Insurance makes sense because people have to have it. You're always going to have people that need it. There's not enough insurance agents really to go around for the population. And also there's a lot of aging insurance agents and aging independent insurance agents. And so what I would tell somebody now is it's a great career. It can offer flexibility, almost dictate how much money you make and how hard you want to work and who your customers are that you want to work with. And so really the sky's the limit, and you have a lot of flexibility with this position. And that is something that I think more people need to take a look at when they're picking a career.
Talking about flexibility, I always like to touch on how business owners avoid burnout. It's so easy to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week when you are the owner in the weeds and everything. What do you do to take care of yourself and to kind of avoid getting into that rut while you may sometimes get into it? How are you consciously trying to take care of yourself?
It's hard. We work together during the day, me and Scott, and go home, and 90% of the time we're talking about work at home. And so we have to really be careful about leaving it during office hours, leaving it at the office, not taking it home. We also have to rely on our staff that we have employed to help us with some of that. If there's, something that I can't get done, hey, can you do this? Delegate that off to somebody. And we both really have a hard time with that. We are workaholics and we want to make sure everything's done right and done timely. And so that is hard. And we do on and off deal with the burnout. And one nice thing about, owning the business is you can just take a day off. I'm going to work from home today. I'm going to take a day off today. I would like that to happen more than it does. But yeah, that's really, you just have to be aware of how stressed you are because it can pile on. And I actually had a conversation with another business owner this morning. It's a husband and wife working together doing landscaping and lawn care. And she was asking me that today. We've only been in business for a few years. We're really just hoping that the hard work now pays off later. And they all have 3 small children, and it's tough. It is really tough.
Yeah, that working with your spouse adds just an extra layer to it. I've had a lot of family in business, and when you're working with family, you can't often be family, right? You're thinking business all the time, so that's an extra challenge for sure.
If you don't mind, I'd like to go back to your teamwork comment. And how important that is. Every business has different levels of teamwork. You think of a restaurant, right? It needs to be teamwork between the host, the waiter or the waitress, and then the back of house and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting with your business, though, and I'm not discounting workflows and things like that in the restaurant industry, but in yours, to your point, it is so particular in what needs to be conveyed to the next person on the chain, or even months may go by and a client calls up and everybody needs to know this is where we go to find the information, or this person is the one that can help you. And that handoff from the customer to the final person that can help them is so important. Tell me a little bit about, you think that way, of course, but how did you get the staff on board with, this is the holy grail here, we're going to go down to this path? And then how did you coach them that direction?
Well, I think, again, where nursing and insurance parallels is we did have nursing handoff every 12 hours. You had to hand off, and you wanted to make sure that next nurse that followed you had every bit of information that you could give them. You would want your family member to have that. If it was something important, you would want to make sure that the nurses told the next nurse and the next nurse. But unfortunately, it's like the telephone game that you play when you're a kid. Things get missed if you're not careful. And so, this last year, we've really tried to hone in on where our weak spots are and how to be more efficient. And part of that is the documentation side of it. We have a shared agency management system where all of our notes and our files go. And that is the perfect place to make sure that nothing gets missed. When one customer calls in requesting something, if that request immediately gets put into our agency management system, and for some reason that person that took that call is not there for the next 2 weeks, because you never know what's going to happen, that note is in there, then we can follow back up and say, oh, she was working on this, didn't get it done. We need to take over and make sure that this gets done. It's hard because 3 years ago, we weren't as busy and the insurance industry less picky than they are now. And for many reasons, the insurance industry has been hit hard in the last few years. And so they're requiring more of us. They're requiring more of our customers. And so I knew as a business owner that I had to make some drastic changes and implement those and hire someone to follow up with those implementation things and make sure that we were not getting lost in the workload. Not everybody's always on board with it, and I struggle with people pleasing. It's like I want my insureds, our customers, to be happy, but at the end of the day, I'm the one that's looking at the whole piece. And so I have to make sure, first of all, that our customers are taken care of. And second of all, making sure our staff is taken care of, but also doing what they're supposed to be doing. Some people can't hang. Some people can. Some people fight a little harder than others. But, ultimately, I have to make sure that our doors stay open and our customers are taken care of. And the workflow has to be there. And we have to work as a team, and the documentation has to be there as well.
The other thing, quick note here, on a completely different level versus nursing or the medical profession versus insurance. But in insurance, everything is calm until they need it.
Yes.
And then when they need it, it is so personally, emotionally dragging on them that when they call up, the last thing they need is, I got to wait to get you the answer, or I'm not sure what that is. I got to wait for Carol to come in, whatever it happens to be. That emotional response in the insurance game could go bang like that for your customer. And to your point, I could really see the connection now with nursing, because demeanor of the other person on the phone, ability to get them a quick answer, all those things are so important. I didn't realize that. That's a great crossover.
It actually has helped me a lot, I think, in owning the insurance business and acquiring another one. I think that that's helped a lot because I know the backside of things, the things that the customers don't see that we are working so hard on to make sure that they are covered appropriately. And, insurance is you're not booking vacations for people. So when people come in and they have to pay for their insurance, they're not always happy people. And that makes our job a little tough, because I can even gripe about my own insurance prices sometimes, but no. When something major happens, like a house fire, and it could and potentially will happen, we want to make sure that we didn't give our customers the lowest price. We gave them the best coverage. And they don't really see the value in their agent, I believe, until they have something major happen, and they have to rely on us. And the one thing that I think that we do a really good job on is, we had a house fire on a Sunday night at like midnight, and my husband got his boots on and went right there and got the adjuster to that house within 4 or 5 hours of the house fire. He helped them clean out their stuff. I mean, he was there every step of the way. And I think that that's one thing that we can do for our customers that maybe other insurance agencies can't do or aren't willing to do. I'm not sure, but that's one thing that I think that sets us apart.
Kind of on a similar note, what do you wish more people knew about your industry? Maybe what you wish your clients knew, or maybe what you wish your friends knew about how you work. What would you say to that?
I wish that customers would take more pride in their insurance coverage, and maybe pride is not the right word, but I wish they would spend the time, take their policies to their agent, tell their agent they want to sit down, face-to-face meeting. Let's go over everything line by line so they know exactly what's on their policy, and just spend a little more time understanding what some of the terminology means. I also think it's really important for customers to know why rates do go up. I mean, I could say, that's just the market. That's just, but that's not a really good answer on why the prices went up. So we try to sit and have those face-to-face meetings so that we can compare old policies to renewal policies to see, why did it go up? The market, obviously, building costs are increased. That is a huge factor. Even though we're in Indiana, there's wildfires in California or hurricanes in Florida, that still does ultimately affect these insurance companies, and the money has to come from somewhere. So prices will tend to go up. And I just wish people understood that more. I think, when they see a $300 increase on the year, they think that $300 goes directly to our pockets, Yeah. But we also have to have cost of living increases for our employees, and so do the insurance companies. They have to do that, and everybody's costs are increasing. So it's not just when your policies go up, the companies don't just pocket that money. They have to pay out as well. And, I wish that customers understood that a little bit more, would call their agents. I think it's so important to call your agent, have that conversation. And if you don't feel like you're getting what you need, then there are plenty other agents out there. So
that's fair. And to that point, we've kind of touched on this a few different ways, but what do you really think sets you apart, right? There are so many agents out there. If someone's listening to this and they are unsure about their current rates, why you? Why your agency?
We have been pushing our agents really hard to either go out to their customers' homes, place of business, meet with them there, take a good overview of what they're actually dealing with. Because if you're an agent, you're writing something, you get a better idea of what you're dealing with when you go out and see the location. We have several customers that have multiple locations and multiple barns and grain bins and all of these things. So you as an agent, it's important to go out and look at these properties, see what you're writing. I think that sets us apart. I also think having a claims manager that's involved in the claims from start to finish, I think that is a huge plus for us. Also, you have agents willing to go out at midnight and go check out, make sure everything's okay. Our staff as a whole generally want the best for their customers, and that's hard to find a group of people that all have that same mentality and that same want to help people and do the right thing. And so we're pretty lucky with that.
I can't imagine one of my clients calling me at 6:00 on a Sunday and me going out, but different industries, right? I would hope my clients don't expect me to do that with their websites, but honestly, I've had some that might.
Yep.
So, Megan, I'd like to talk about your expansion, your acquisition in Terre Haute to expand your business. A lot of people do expansions for many, many different reasons. More geography, more footprint, take our brand and establish it in another location, or it might be simply more volume. I just want more volume, and we'll go from there. When you and Scott looked at, prior to purchasing the business in Terre Haute, when you looked at that, was it entirely hey, we want to expand our geography, or did you have a larger strategy that even 5-10 years from now, this is just another step in a larger strategy? So, and if there is no strategy, that's fine too, because you guys are doing a fantastic job. I'm always curious as to why people make that leap to expand.
Well, I always like to play things on the safe side. My husband is complete opposite of me, so he's always doing things that I'm stressed out about, especially when it came to this acquisition. I was always like, why don't we not? We're good. Let's just stay here. And then usually his ideas pan out okay, maybe because I'm stressing out and planning. But I think our strategy really for the Terre Haute office, there were several different strategies, but one of the things that I really liked about that location is where it was located in Vigo County. It's a great location. There's lots of eyes on that building. It's a relatively new building. So location to me can help a lot. Allied Insurance was in a smaller building off the beaten path before we built our brand new building on 40. And now people know where we're at, know our building. And so location was key, I think, for us on this building. And so when I saw the Terre Haute building, I thought, this is a great location. And that was one part of it for me, because we were also buying the building as well as, the insurance agency itself. And then the other part of it was formerly Heaton Insurance. John Heaton was the owner of that agency. He's owned that agency for many, many years. And people knew his name, knew where he was located. And so we felt like we were not leaving his customers out to dry, as far as it's some big agency that they're never going to be able to talk to an agent again. We feel like we've made it pretty seamless for his customers. And Allied Brazil also had had several customers located in Illinois, West Terre Haute, Farmersburg area. So it did make sense that for our customers that we buy something in Vigo County to make it closer for them as well. So there was a few things that fit into that, why we felt like it was a good purchase. His book of business, his customer base, a little bit different than ours, but it's been nice to kind of progress those customers into the mold of what we have in Brazil. And I think that we're doing a pretty good job with that. So
glad it's working out.
I want to kind of transition a little more outside of the business, but are there any mentors, famous people, authors, anyone that you kind of look to or admire in business?
I don't know personally a lot of business owners. After, coming on board with Allied, I've really paid a lot more attention to small business owners. And I don't think there's any one person or famous person that I really look up to. I just look at a lot of our small business owners here in our community and just, we talk, we take notes, we trade ideas. Some days when there's bad days, we gripe to each other about it, and they know exactly what you're going through. And I think that benefits all of us because it helps us learn, it helps us grow. It's fun to be able to be a part of their business as their insurance agent, as well as that's really who I like to look up to, because there are some hard workers in our community with
Absolutely. On a similar but separate note, we haven't asked this in the past, but I am a foodie. What's your favorite locally owned restaurant?
There are a lot. Dave, I don't know if you've been to any around Brazil, but I'll just name some off in Vigo County and Brazil. Sashimi in Terre Haute, that's probably one of my favorites. There is the Mixed Plate in Brazil. They are a Hawaiian-based restaurant. Fantastic. Happy's Barbecue, of course. That's always a staple in Brazil. There are so many. I mean, we like to eat out. I hate to cook, so we eat out a lot. We like to just make our rounds in Brazil. It's nice to have a variety in town. I've heard we're getting a Jimmy John's, so I hope that that's true because I haven't been as well.
Interesting. Dave, why don't you go ahead and ask one last final question, and then I'll go into rapid fire after that.
Okay. Yeah, this may be a short question, but I'm fascinated with the role of AI technology now in industries and in businesses. I just finished a book called The Technology Trap, and it's about the fourth industrial revolution, which is we're in now, which is artificial intelligence and robotics and things like that. Obviously, it's you can look at it with gloom and doom, or you can look at all rosy, everything's great. I was curious, are you seeing any threat or even upside to your business yet? It might be early, of AI technology coming in. It could be helping with actuaries. It could be helping, whatever it happens to be. Do you see that in your industry yet, or is it just kind of just chatter in the background?
It's starting to become something that we're talking about more. We haven't really implemented anything in our agency quite yet. I do know that our agency management system, that's our filing system, they are starting to dabble in some AI stuff on there. And what little I have messed with it, I think it could be really beneficial. But also at the same time, you really have to make sure that it's accurate, because just like Google, when Google came out, it probably wasn't truly accurate all the time. So you still have to make sure that what you're getting from that AI is the correct thing. That's going to be a little bit stressful, I think, as a business owner, just making sure that your people are double checking the AI systems and making sure that those are accurate. I've not had too much with this yet, but I know some of our carriers are leaning towards some of the AI measures as far as looking at homes, looking at properties, that kind of thing. They're utilizing that, or starting to talk about utilizing some AI measures. It'll be interesting to see. I don't think you're gonna see agents go away anytime soon. I don't think AI is going to be able to replace a person when it comes to writing policies, managing claims, that kind of thing. So I'm not, too worried about it, but I think it's coming. So I think definitely that's something that we need to be open to think about in the near future for sure.
Absolutely. And speaking of AI, we originally, on the original episodes, had a list of questions we would ask every week in a rapid fire fashion. 60 seconds, answer as many questions as you can. Recently, we've mixed it up a little bit, and today I'm mixing it up even more. So I've put the questions into ChatGPT, asked it to pump out more questions, haven't read them, did it while Dave was asking his question actually. And we're going to give you a minute and a half to answer them in rapid fire fashion. Does that sound good?
Okay.
All right. So I'm reading these fresh, so bear with me. Do you need a drink of water or anything before we go?
No.
Okay. All right. Ready? Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Hidden talent.
I am not talented.
Best advice you ever received?
My grandma telling me to toughen up. I think that was probably some pretty darn good advice.
I like it. Morning or a night owl?
Oh, night owl for sure.
Paper notes or digital notes?
I'm a paper girl.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee for sure.
Dream vacation?
The beach, anywhere, it doesn't matter.
Nice. Favorite season of the year?
I like fall and spring.
Okay. The last book you read?
Gosh, I don't even remember what the book was that I finished. I have 4 sitting on my nightstand right now, and I never have time to read. Oh, I know what it was. It was the Demi Moore biography. That's what it was.
Okay. Nice. Favorite emoji?
The laughing emoji.
Favorite job you've ever had?
I worked at a coffee shop once that had ice cream. That was probably the best job.
Work hard or play hard?
Both.
Love it. And that was time. Well done. So as we wrap up, I want to give you an opportunity to share anything that maybe you haven't shared yet. And when we're done with that, I would love if you could suggest a couple of people that you think should be on the podcast next.
This has been a fun industry. I've met a lot of people, a lot of customers along the way. And so that part has been fun. There are good opportunities that we can get invited to. We were invited to the Indy 500 practice race yesterday, and that was fun. We've been invited to some like NCAA basketball tournament games. So those are fun things that, gets us out of the office a little bit and little perks of the job. And it's been fun. It's been exhausting, but it's been a good time.
Right. I get it. Well, who do you think in your sphere should we get on here next? Who's a small business owner that needs to be talking to us?
You could try, there's many, but you could try First Choice Lawn Care. Dave, do you know them? Have you gotten in touch with them?
I do know them.
And then we have so many that would be good. Bryce Schottmeyer with Dirtworks and Farm & Co. Do you know them?
Yeah, I do. I've not worked with them, but I do know them. Yeah.
They've got a lot of moving parts in their business. They would be good. Happy's Barbecue would be good also.
Yeah.
That would be Travis Van Zandt.
We might have to do an on the scene podcast with Pappy's, just platters of barbecue. We'll set up cameras.
Hey, they do wing eating contests for some nonprofits every once in a while. That would be good.
Nice. Oh, that'd be dangerous for me.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you joining us. You're welcome back anytime you want. We're definitely looking forward. If you could help us connect with these 3 people, try to get them on. I know Dave has some relationships, but we'd really appreciate to get them on next.
Yes, I appreciate the invite and to get some of our information out there. Hopefully it's helpful to others.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Well, thank you very much. And thank you for anyone listening this far. And until next time, have a good day.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
Thanks.